we talked about, or module 1, we talked about the 4 principles of sustainability. The third principle had to do with equity. And this is the idea that we need to make sure that we treat people equally or with equity and not discriminate based upon income or race or ethnicity. And so this is the idea of environmental justice, and it's a really important idea because it has great implications ethically as well as economically. When we talk about environmental justice, there are certain populations that tend to experience disproportionate bad effects of environmental degradation. So certain populations, you could say, experience more damaging effects from degraded ecosystems. And this could even be urban ecosystems. There is a video in Module 1 that talks about redlining. And this was the idea that you could, through governmental policies, create different neighborhoods where we had segregation so that there could be poor people in one neighborhood, and that neighborhood, for example, doesn't have access to parks, doesn't have access to trees, might be much, much hotter in the summertime than a neighborhood that is predominantly of a different ethnicity that might have lots of public parks and might have lots of city trees. So this is, that would be an example of not having environmental justice. So when we look at the examples from your book, we could say, for example, there are certain populations that are more likely to be exposed to health risks from pesticides, fertilizers, and dust in terms of migrant workers. We could look at those populations that don't have clean access to or access to clean water. So they might have infrastructure with lead pipes, and so there's lead leaching into their water, and so they might get disproportionately sick. There might be more trouble or problems with development of their children. When we look at the cleaning up of New Orleans after Katrina, there were certain populations that were more prone to being flooded, and those tend to be of people, say, for example, of color. And then just, not in your backyard kind of idea. We might have coal plants in your backyard, which are polluting, and you are at a much higher risk for lung cancer. And so this is all ethical considerations, but also economic considerations. And it's important to realize that in order to have a sustainable system, we need to try to eliminate some of these differences between populations. This is going to be a big issue when we start talking about climate change and how there are some, even today, some island populations that are having to move because of rising sea levels. So this is going to be a greater issue as we move forward.